Alright, what's up yins guys? I'm gonna make another video. This is what I've been meaning to get around to talking about here, subject matter. This world and its constant need to have more and more cemeteries with endless amounts of tombstones. And if you ever go around some of your neighborhoods or towns or cities or what have you, you can see a lot of old cemeteries depending on where you're at. Some of them, I mean, really old, and nobody goes to visit them graves anymore, and you can go in there and you don't even know who the hell they are. I mean, there was at one point in time way back when generations of people lived on the same land. They were all related, and their ancestors and relatives were buried there, and generation after generation, they had the land, and it was a big deal because their ancestors and different people were buried there. But times change. I mean, this world is all high-tech, and it's bigger and everything else. Now there's all these big bunches of cemeteries, and a lot of times nobody knows or even cares who the hell they are except the immediate family. And there's actually still people that actually make it a big deal to go and visit somebody's grave, like the person that died is still going to be there and hear them, And I'm not putting it down. It's a very emotional thing. Oh, hell. I mean, I had a cat that died, and a lot of us had pets that died. I don't think that at least I don't go and sit and dwell on that area where I buried my cat, but I have a little marker there. We have markers for our pets. And there's a lot of people that believe that, some people that actually still literally believe that that body is actually going to come back out of the grave or raised from the grave. And the problem with that is, hey, what about people that died in combat, in the military? No body even left to bury, nothing left, just blown apart, different kind of ways. What about them, I mean, I can go on and on about that, but that's a little bit ridiculous. I mean, that's a no-brainer right there. I mean, what does the physical body have to do with anything? But I'll tell you about something else real quick, too. Something I read about a bunch of years ago in a newspaper. Not too far from my area, there was people, that one of many people that profit from death, whether it's burial or cremation. Well, this guy I read about, he was in the business of, if you want to call it that way, people are in the business of death, to make a lot of money, you know what I mean? And we just see it as a responsibility when people die, it's the family's somewhere along the lines responsibility to do something and have a funeral. But this guy I read about in the paper, in the business of these cremations, what he was doing, he was pocketing the money and giving people the with those thingies that you see that people take the ashes of their relatives, after the cremation, and they can keep the ashes, giving them the guy given the people, what's supposed to be their ashes, giving the family members the ashes, but he wasn't really cremating the bodies. He was throwing them in this big well on his property, and he was giving people these these things that the family members were thinking they were getting the ashes of their relative or whatever, but instead of doing what he was supposed to, he was taking the body, throwing them in the well down in his property, and taking people's money. And he was evidently doing this for like a whole bunch of years, you know what I mean? And however he got caught, can picture the police, looking at a flashlight down there, this big catacombs or something in this well he had, and it might have looked like that movie. You ever see the Vin Diesel movie Pitch Black? You have a flashlight or throw a flare down there, and there's all these skeletons down there. I mean, that's really dealing somebody dirty or whatever. But I don't remember the whole details about the article. If you guys want to look up articles, that a lot of people were probably caught doing that, but there's a lot of people that will do dirty things and take advantage of people's death, because death is also a business too, you know what I mean? You almost want to make a comic strip or a cartoon, the Grim Reaper wanting to sue these people that are in that business, you know, the morticians, you know, the funeral people, and the people that make money burying you, suing for have a cartoon, the Grim Reaper suing these people, you know, says, I want money out of this, you're making money off of me, and I want it, you know, make some kind of funny cartoon about the Grim Reaper there. But I mean, way back, I watched YouTube videos, little clips too, you know, people were putting on there. I seen these documentaries, but some people were putting parts of them on YouTube. Way back when they had the Catacombs, and they were putting people underneath, you know, because there was no room, you know. The Catacombs that were, when they built the buildings and great cathedrals and buildings like in European countries and some other countries, they mined out the stone and all that and taking it out from under the ground and using the stone as building material. Then then the holes that were left in the ground, the tunnels, they were using it for catacombs to put the dead. And I was seeing about these catacombs. After a while, you know, underneath the ground was starting to kind of cave in, and they started putting pillars under there. And now you got an area down there that's people were going down there and getting lost and all that, and dying down there and stuff, going down there to go and exploring and never returning. And I was seeing about how they found this guy's camera. The guy was dead, and people went down there and they found his camera and everything. But say you go down even further yet, there's not enough air down there and all that stuff either, and you can eventually suffocate or whatever too. You know, just like, you know, when they had coal mines and mines, they had to have an air shaft down there, because there's all kind of stuff down the ground, you know, whether it's the lack of oxygen or even different gases and different things, you know, it'll, depending on what kind of ground it is, it'll kill you, whether it's lack of air or gases that seep from the ground or whatever the hell. But yeah, there's more, and people are using more and more ground for cemeteries, and then and people think it's so important to have like this fancy grave, and then there's these people that are richer and have more money than everybody else. They're getting buried with cars and these really fancy graves that look almost like buildings more than tombstones or some kind of walk-in mausoleums, vaults. And I always wonder what's the point in that. The only point in outside of the family, you know, having the money to bury somebody, the only point to that is the people that make the money off of it, the people that'll sell you the really fancy caskets. And then if you're really rich, yeah, these people of today are really the ones that are real rich. And I mean, you got celebrities. These people, you may have these mausoleums being buried with cars. I mean, if these Egyptian pharaohs were around to see this today, they'd probably be scratching their heads, and because you know they had pyramids and different things, these important pharaohs and all that were buried in these really fancy things and all that. And you got people today doing that just because they're rich, and they'll have a relative or even the person that's rich themselves, you know. Yeah, if you're rich, you can decide, you know, all those things too. And yeah, they'll be more than happy to sell you something like that. You know, matter of fact, if you and me hit the lottery for a couple million, there'll be probably somebody trying to peddle you the idea of death, that yeah, maybe you need, since you have all this money, that you're gonna die someday, and why don't you have, they'll try to sell you maybe something that's equivalent of a small building to bury you in, you know what I mean? And just because you have the money, you know. And I think I've seen trying to give you some pretty vague thing without going on and on, but I think it's kind of crazy, you know what I mean, too. Yeah, ridiculous ways they make a big deal of death if you have the money, you know what I mean. But Okay, I was trying to think of another thing I had rattling around in my head, and I almost forgot about it. I was struggling with it, making this video that I wanted to say here. One of the funniest things, I don't know if you guys have this in any of your neighborhoods. I know there's probably not of that around. One of the funniest things, like a cemetery right next to a fast food place. There was a neighborhood I lived for like a brief time. I still drive through the neighborhood every once in a while on the way to a Walmart or something. Right next to a McDonald's. I think that's kind of a joke in itself. I mean, some of us make jokes. Cemetery right next to a McDonald's. You got to wonder where they're getting the meat for the burgers, you know what I mean? We used to make jokes about that. And it can be making a statement about fast food. You know what I mean? Yeah, some people believe fast food is killing us, and why not have a cemetery right next to the cemetery? Then some of your neighborhoods, if any of yous watching this have a cemetery next to a fast food place, can any of yous guys tell me which came first? The cemetery or the fast food restaurant? Well, I guess in most of the cases it's probably going to be the fast food place came last, and then the cemetery was already there, because that's usually how it works. Maybe the cemetery, older graves there, and then businesses come and go, and somebody builds a fast food place there, you know what I mean? I guess the fast food place would have to have been a really old place, and I don't think it's a very high likelihood that they're going to put a cemetery right next to the fast food place after the fast food place was already there. But usually it's the other way around. I think that was kind of a funny thing to share, there too. But yeah, right next to a fast food place. Yeah, you got those around, plenty of those around, and it's kind of funny and ironic. Sure, and there's a lot of other places that are right next to conveniently next to a cemetery too, that you can probably think of, Okay. Oh, anyway, you guys can probably think of a lot of places that are next to a cemetery that's very convenient. I mean, about things that are probably going to eventually kill you anyway, you know what I mean? I'll just leave that up to you. But that's it for this video anyway. See you next